Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, you're always walking on eggshells around someone? Like every word, every action could somehow be twisted against you? If that sounds familiar, chances are you've dealt with a narcissist, someone who turns relationships into emotional battlegrounds, draining your energy and manipulating your reactions to stay in control. But what if I told you there's a way to completely flip the script without fights, without endless arguments, without exhausting yourself? A way to make yourself completely immune to a narcissist's psychological tricks. It's not just possible, it's actually simple. And the answer lies in Stoicism. Now let's get one thing straight. Stoicism isn't about being cold, emotionless, or indifferent. It's about mastering your emotions so no one else can use them against you. And for a narcissist, dealing with someone who applies Stoic principles is pure torture, because it strips away their ability to control, manipulate, and feed off your reactions. Why does this work so well? Because narcissists thrive on emotional chaos. They need drama. They need you to react, to defend yourself, to feel guilty. That's what fuels their power. But when they come across someone who simply doesn't play the game, who remains calm, detached, and unaffected, it's like their entire strategy crumbles before their eyes. Now, imagine this. You, standing in front of a narcissist, completely unshaken. No need to explain yourself, no urge to prove anything, no guilt weighing you down. Imagine the freedom of no longer being emotionally controlled. That's not just a dream, it's a reality you can step into. And the key is in 8 Stoic attitudes that narcissists absolutely cannot stand. These behaviors strip them of their power, leaving them frustrated and lost. And the best part? You don't have to fight. You don't have to argue. You don't have to exhaust yourself. All you have to do is shift your mindset and let their control over you fade away. In the next sections, we'll break down exactly what these attitudes are and how you can apply them in real life. If you've ever dealt with a narcissist, you know how draining it can be. But from this moment on, you'll have the ultimate emotional shield, protecting you from their manipulation once and for all. Get ready, because what comes next might just change the way you handle these people forever. If there's one thing that can truly drive a narcissist crazy, it's realizing they have no control over your emotions. They live for attention, whether positive or negative. Praise feeds their ego, but even conflict, anger, or frustration still serve their need for validation. In their mind, any reaction means they still matter. But what happens when you don't react at all? One of the core teachings of Stoicism is the power of indifference, the ability to remain unaffected by things beyond your control. And nothing is more infuriating to a narcissist than someone who refuses to give them the emotional energy they crave. Think about it. They try to provoke you, expecting an emotional outburst. They criticize you, waiting for you to defend yourself. They give you the silent treatment, expecting you to chase them. But instead of playing along, you simply don't care. You remain calm, detached, unbothered. To a narcissist, this is unbearable. They need you to be emotionally invested in their game. The moment they sense that you're not, that their words and actions no longer affect you, they lose all power over you. How Stoics master indifference. The key to mastering Stoic indifference isn't about repressing emotions or pretending not to feel. It's about recognizing that your peace of mind is your responsibility, not something that anyone else should have control over. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it best. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. A narcissist can say whatever they want. They can play mind games, throw tantrums, give you the cold shoulder. But the moment you realize that none of that has power over you unless you allow it, you become untouchable. Imagine a narcissist texting you something passive-aggressive, expecting you to explain yourself or beg for their approval. Instead of falling into the trap, you either ignore it or respond with a simple, "Okay." No emotions, no explanations. Just pure, unshakable calm. To them, this is infuriating, because they suddenly realize they don't control your mood anymore. Why narcissists fear losing control. A narcissist's entire world revolves around control. They need to feel superior, powerful, and admired. When they sense that someone doesn't need them, it creates a deep internal panic. Think about it, their usual tactics, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, emotional outbursts, are designed to get a reaction. When those tactics stop working, they feel powerless. And for a narcissist, losing power is their worst nightmare. That's why the Stoic principle of indifference is so effective. It doesn't just frustrate them, it forces them to see that their manipulation isn't working anymore. And most of the time, when a narcissist realizes they've lost control over you, they do one of two things. 1. They escalate their tactics, trying harder to get a reaction. They might insult you, provoke you, or guilt-trip you into responding. 2. They give up and move on to an easier target, because at the end of the day, narcissists don't want a challenge. They want control. How to apply this in real life? So how do you start practicing Stoic indifference in your daily life? Here are a few powerful ways. Pause before reacting. The next time a narcissist tries to provoke you, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Limit your responses. You don't owe them explanations, apologies, or emotional reactions. Keep your replies short and neutral. Detach from their approval. Stop seeking validation from someone who thrives on making you feel unworthy. Control what you can, yourself. You can't change their behavior, but you can change how much power you give them over your emotions. Once you start applying these principles, something incredible happens. You regain control over your life. The stress, anxiety, and self-doubt that narcissists thrive on disappear. And that's when you realize you were never the problem. What comes next? Now that we've covered why indifference is the ultimate weapon against narcissists, let's go even deeper. In the next section, we'll break down another Stoic principle that completely destroys a narcissist's manipulation tactics, one that makes them feel completely powerless and irrelevant. Get ready, because this is just the beginning. Here's section where we introduce another powerful Stoic principle that narcissists absolutely cannot stand. This keeps the engaging psychological approach while ensuring the audience stays hooked. Emotional detachment, the one thing that makes narcissists powerless. If there's one thing narcissists desperately need, it's your emotional investment. They don't just want you to react, they want you to feel emotionally tied to them. Because as long as you're emotionally involved, they have control. That's why the second Stoic principle that completely disarms them is emotional detachment. Now, let's be clear. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean becoming cold, robotic, or shutting down emotionally. Instead, it means learning to separate your emotions from their manipulation. It's about choosing where to invest your energy instead of letting a narcissist dictate your mental state. And for a narcissist, this is unbearable, because the moment they realize they can no longer pull you into their drama, they start to lose their grip on you. Why emotional detachment destroys a narcissist's power. Narcissists thrive on pushing your buttons. They test your boundaries, guilt-trip you, play the victim, anything to trigger an emotional response. Because if they can make you feel something, anger, guilt, sadness, confusion, they know they still have influence over you. But when you practice Stoic emotional detachment, their manipulation stops working. Picture this. They accuse you of being selfish. You remain calm and unaffected. They try to make you jealous. You shrug it off. They give you the silent treatment. You enjoy the peace and move on. To a narcissist, this is pure frustration. They rely on emotional chaos, and when you remove yourself from the equation, they feel completely powerless. The Stoic approach to emotional control. The Stoics believed that external events don't cause our emotions. Our interpretation of them does. This means that no one, not even a narcissist, has the power to make you feel a certain way. Marcus Aurelius, the famous Stoic emperor, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." A narcissist wants you to believe that your emotions are theirs to control. But when you recognize that you are the only one who decides how you feel, their entire strategy falls apart. How to emotionally detach from a narcissist. So how do you start practicing Stoic detachment? Here are a few key strategies. 1. Recognize their patterns. Once you see their tactics for what they are, manipulative mind games, they lose their emotional impact. 2. Stop taking things personally. A narcissist's words are not about you. They're about their need for control. Their insults, blame, and guilt-tripping are projections of their own insecurities. 3. Stay calm and neutral. When they try to provoke you, respond with logic, not emotion. Keep your tone even and your words minimal. Nothing frustrates a narcissist more than not being able to get a rise out of you. 4. Set firm boundaries. Emotional detachment doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It means recognizing when to step back, disengage, and protect your peace. 5. Choose where your energy goes. Instead of feeding into their drama, focus on things that actually bring you fulfillment, your goals, your peace, your life. The narcissist's worst fear, becoming irrelevant. A narcissist's biggest nightmare is losing relevance. They crave attention, whether it's admiration or conflict. But when you detach emotionally, you send a clear message. You don't control me. You don't define me. You are not important enough to disturb my peace. And that is what breaks them. Because once you detach emotionally, they start to lose interest. They may escalate their behavior at first, trying harder to trigger a response, but when they see that you're not playing the game anymore, they either give up or move on to an easier target, and that's when you truly win. What's next? Now that we've covered why emotional detachment makes narcissists completely powerless, it's time to reveal another Stoic principle that completely flips the dynamic, one that turns their biggest weapon against them. In the next section, we'll dive into how Stoic self-sufficiency destroys a narcissist's ability to control you, and why nothing terrifies them more than someone who doesn't need them at all. Stay tuned, because this is where things get even more powerful. Here's section 4, where we explore why self-sufficiency is a narcissist's biggest weakness, and how Stoic principles make you completely immune to their control. The power of self-sufficiency. Why narcissists hate independent people. If there's one thing narcissists cannot stand, it's someone who doesn't need them. Think about it. Narcissists survive by making people emotionally, mentally, and even financially dependent on them. They want to feel needed because that's how they maintain control. If you rely on them for approval, validation, or even a sense of self-worth, they can manipulate you endlessly. But what happens when they encounter someone who is completely self-sufficient? A person who doesn't crave their validation, who doesn't rely on them for happiness, who doesn't feel the need to prove anything. To a narcissist, this is terrifying, because when you don't need them, they have no power over you. Why narcissists want you to depend on them? Narcissists create dependency in subtle ways. They give you compliments, then take them away. One day you're the best person they've ever met. The next, they act like you're worthless. This keeps you chasing their approval. They make you doubt yourself. Through gaslighting and subtle insults, they try to weaken your confidence so you rely on them for reassurance. They isolate you. They discourage you from spending time with friends, pursuing goals, or doing things that make you feel independent. Why? Because if you become self-sufficient, they lose control. The Stoic secret to true independence. The Stoics believed that happiness comes from within, not from external sources. They taught that the only thing you truly own is your mind and your actions. Everything else is beyond your control. Epictetus, a famous Stoic philosopher, once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This doesn't just apply to money, it applies to emotional wealth too. The less you need from a narcissist, the richer you become. A narcissist wants you to believe that you can't live without them, but the truth is, you can. And the moment you realize this, their entire strategy falls apart. How to become emotionally self-sufficient. So how do you apply Stoic self-sufficiency and break free from a narcissist's control? 1. Stop seeking external validation. You don't need their approval. You don't need their compliments. The only validation that matters is your own. 2. Develop your own sense of purpose. Narcissists want to be the center of your world. Take back your focus. Invest in your goals, hobbies, and passions. 3. Build a strong support system. Stay connected to friends, family, and people who genuinely care about you. Narcissists hate when you have a life outside of them. 4. Trust yourself. Stop doubting your instincts. Stop second-guessing your worth. A narcissist thrives on making you question yourself. Don't let them. 5. Be okay with walking away. The strongest people aren't the ones who stay and fight. They're the ones who know when to leave and never look back. Why this completely breaks a narcissist. A narcissist's worst fear is being irrelevant. When they realize you don't need them for validation, happiness, or self-worth, they panic. They'll try to pull you back in with guilt, love bombing, or manipulation. But when you're truly self-sufficient, their tactics no longer work, because you no longer need them. And without that power over you, they have nothing left. What's next? Now that we've uncovered why self-sufficiency makes narcissists completely powerless, it's time to explore another Stoic principle that sends them into a spiral: emotional control. In the next section, we'll break down how mastering your emotions makes you untouchable, and why narcissists hate people they can't provoke. Get ready, because things are about to get even more powerful. Here's section Tong, where we explore why emotional control is a narcissist's biggest weakness, and how Stoic principles make you completely immune to their manipulation. Emotional control, the one thing that makes you untouchable. If there's one thing that narcissists hate more than anything, it's someone they can't provoke. They live for emotional reactions. They want you to get angry, to defend yourself, to break down, to prove yourself. Because the moment you let them control your emotions, they know they can control you. But what happens when they try to push your buttons and you don't react? What happens when they insult you, provoke you, or try to guilt trip you, and you stay completely calm, unfazed, and in control? To a narcissist, this is maddening, because they realize they have no power over you anymore. Why narcissists need your emotional reactions? Narcissists don't just want attention, they want emotional dominance. They want to see you stressed, overwhelmed, and doubting yourself. That's why they say hurtful things just to get a reaction. They don't care if it's true, they just want to see you react. Gaslight you into questioning reality. The more confused you are, the more you rely on them for clarity. Play the victim. If they can make you feel guilty, they can manipulate your actions. But when you refuse to let them control your emotions, they lose their grip on you completely. The Stoic secret to unshakable emotional control. The Stoics believed that no one can make you feel anything. Your emotions are a result of how you interpret events, not the events themselves. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, said, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." And that's the truth. A narcissist can try to insult you, manipulate you, or guilt trip you. But you decide how you respond. You decide whether it affects you. You decide whether you give them power over your emotions. And once you stop reacting the way they expect, their manipulation becomes useless. How to master emotional control like a Stoic. So how do you become emotionally untouchable? Here's how. 1. Pause before reacting. When a narcissist tries to provoke you, take a deep breath. Don't react on impulse. 2. Detach from their words. Imagine their insults as words floating in the air, meaningless, powerless, irrelevant. They only have power if you let them. 3. Stay neutral. Instead of arguing, just say, "Okay." Instead of defending yourself, just say, "I see." A narcissist can't fight someone who refuses to engage. 4. Control your body language. Stay calm, maintain eye contact, and keep a neutral expression. Your lack of reaction is what truly frustrates them. 5. Focus on what matters. Ask yourself, does this person's opinion truly affect my life? If the answer is no, let it go. Why this drives narcissists crazy? A narcissist needs emotional chaos to survive. They feed off of conflict, drama, and your emotional vulnerability. But when they try to bait you into reacting, and you stay calm and in control, it destroys them. They might lash out harder at first, desperate to get a reaction. But when they see that you're unshakable, they'll realize they've lost their power over you. And at that moment, you win. What's next? Now that we've covered how emotional control makes you untouchable, let's take it even further. In the next section, we'll dive into how setting boundaries like a Stoic completely shuts down a narcissist's manipulation, and why they absolutely can't stand people who refuse to be controlled. Get ready, because this is where you take back full control of your life. The power of boundaries. Why narcissists hate people. They can't control. Narcissists don't respect boundaries. They push, test, and cross limits just to see how much they can get away with. They expect you to bend, compromise, and sacrifice for them, while they do whatever they want, without consequences. But what happens when you stop allowing it? What happens when you set firm, unshakable boundaries and actually stick to them? To a narcissist, this is unforgivable, because boundaries do something they can't stand. They take away their control over you. Why narcissists try to break your boundaries? A narcissist's goal is to blur the lines between what they want and what you need. That's why they ignore your no. They act like it's a suggestion, not a rule. Guilt trip you for setting limits. They make you feel selfish for protecting yourself. Push you to over-explain so they can find a way to break your boundary. Punish you for standing your ground through silent treatment, anger, or playing the victim. The message they want to send is clear. Your boundaries don't matter. Only my needs do. But when you adopt a Stoic approach to boundaries, that message no longer works. How Stoics set unbreakable boundaries. Stoicism teaches that you are in control of yourself and your life, and that includes deciding what you will and won't accept from others. Epictetus, a great Stoic philosopher, said, "No person has the power to have you say or do things against your will." This means that no matter how much pressure a narcissist applies, they cannot force you to violate your own boundaries unless you let them. And once you understand this, everything changes. How to set boundaries. That a narcissist can't break. 1. Be clear and firm. Say what you mean without hesitation. No long explanations, no justifications, just, "I'm not comfortable with that." Period. 2. Stop negotiating. A narcissist will try to wear you down. Don't argue, don't explain, don't engage. A boundary is a boundary. End of discussion. 3. Follow through. If you say you won't tolerate something, stick to it. A narcissist will test you. Don't back down. 4. Ignore their emotional reactions. When you set a boundary, they'll try to make you feel guilty. Stay neutral. Their feelings are not your responsibility. 5. Walk away if necessary. Some boundaries require distance. If a narcissist refuses to respect your limits, removing them from your life may be the only option. Why this completely shuts them down? Narcissists operate by pushing past your limits to gain control. But when you enforce your boundaries like a Stoic, calmly, firmly, and without guilt, they lose their power. They might try harder to manipulate you. They'll test your limits, trying to break you. Guilt trip you. They'll act like you're cruel for protecting yourself. Punish you for saying no, through silent treatment, anger, or playing the victim. But when they realize you're not budging, something shifts. They start to see that you are no longer an easy target. And once a narcissist knows they can't manipulate you, they usually give up and move on. What's next? Now that we've covered why strong boundaries destroy a narcissist's control, it's time for the next level. In the next section, we'll explore how Stoic self-respect makes you completely immune to their manipulation, and why narcissists absolutely hate people who refuse to be devalued. Get ready, because this is where you reclaim your full power. Here's section 7, where we dive into why self-respect makes narcissists completely powerless, and why they absolutely hate people who refuse to be devalued. The power of self-respect. Why narcissists can't stand people who know their worth. There's one thing a narcissist desperately needs you to believe: that you are not enough. That's why they criticize, belittle, and compare you to others. They want you to doubt your value, because the more insecure you feel, the easier you are to control. But what happens when they meet someone with unshakable self-respect? Someone who doesn't seek their approval, who refuses to accept mistreatment, who knows their worth and will not settle for less. To a narcissist, this is unbearable, because their biggest weapon, devaluation, suddenly becomes useless. Why narcissists try to destroy your self-respect? A narcissist knows that as long as you respect yourself, you won't tolerate their manipulation. That's why they try to break your confidence in subtle ways. They compare you to others. They make you feel like you're never quite good enough. They downplay your achievements. Instead of celebrating your success, they minimize it or ignore it. They twist your insecurities against you. They find your weaknesses and use them to keep you feeling small. They punish confidence. If you start standing up for yourself, they try to put you back in your place. Because in their mind, if you stop doubting yourself, they lose control. The Stoic secret to unbreakable self-respect. The Stoics believe that your worth is not determined by others. It comes from within. No one can take away your value unless you give them permission. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, if a narcissist insults you, it only affects you if you believe them. Their words mean nothing unless you assign meaning to them. And once you realize that their opinion is irrelevant, their ability to control you disappears. How to build unshakable self-respect. 1. Stop seeking approval. A narcissist wants you to crave their validation. Don't give them that power. You don't need their approval. You only need your own. 2. Reject their insults. When they try to tear you down, don't take the bait. Their words are a reflection of them, not you. 3. Own your strengths. Narcissists try to make you feel small. Don't shrink yourself to make them comfortable. 4. Walk away from disrespect. A narcissist expects you to stay no matter how badly they treat you. Prove them wrong. 5. Control your inner dialogue. Your mind should be a place of strength, not self-doubt. Speak to yourself with the respect you deserve. Why this breaks a narcissist. A narcissist's biggest fear is irrelevance. When they can't manipulate you, insult you, or make you doubt yourself, they realize they hold no power over you. That's when they try harder to break you. They may escalate their attacks, hoping to wear you down. Play the victim. Suddenly they act like you are the problem. Look for someone else to control, because once they see you're untouchable, they usually move on, and that's when you win. Because by refusing to let them define your worth, you take back your power completely. What's next? Now that we've covered why self-respect makes narcissists completely powerless, it's time to go even deeper. In the next section, we'll break down how embracing silence and mystery shuts down a narcissist's ability to manipulate you, and why they absolutely hate people they can't read. Get ready, because this next principle changes everything. The final blow. Why narcissists ultimately lose power over you. By now, you've seen exactly why narcissists can't stand people who embrace Stoic principles. Each of these attitudes, indifference, emotional control, self-sufficiency, strong boundaries, and unshakable self-respect, slowly strips away their ability to manipulate, control, or drain your energy. But here's the truth. Narcissists only have as much power as you give them. They don't actually control you. They don't define your worth. They don't dictate how you feel. The only reason they seemed powerful before was because you engaged with their game. You reacted, explained, defended, and doubted yourself. But now, you know better. The ultimate Stoic mindset shift. The greatest lesson of Stoicism is simple. No one can hurt you without your permission. A narcissist thrives on emotional chaos. They live for reactions, control, and validation. But when you stop playing along, when you detach, stay calm, and own your power, they're left with nothing. They might try harder at first, testing your boundaries, trying to trigger a reaction, making you feel guilty for standing your ground. But as time goes on, they realize they've lost control. And a narcissist with no control is powerless. What happens next? At this point, one of two things will happen. 1. They give up and move on. When they see you're unshakable, they'll realize they can't manipulate you anymore, and they'll start looking for an easier target. 2. They try to win you back. If they sense you slipping away, they might use guilt, love bombing, or playing the victim to regain control. But now you see through it. Now you recognize the game. Now you hold all the power, and this time, you won't fall for it. The final truth. You don't need a narcissist's approval. You don't need their validation. You don't need to prove anything to them. You are stronger than their manipulation. You are in control of yourself. You are completely free. I see manipulation.